Well, kids, one more sleep and it's here. 2024 NFL legal tampering opens Monday at noon. We're going to have a lot to talk about. We're going to focus on the defensive side of the ball. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your host, Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate each and every one that make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, you guys knew all about the talk for Jerry Jeudy. You guys saw it come to fruition. Love you all. We need more of you. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Excuse me. We are here, obviously Monday at noon. We will have the legal tampering. Seems like a lot of action is already going down. Browns obviously active yesterday, the Jerry Jeudy deal. Old friend Baker Mayfield, big contract extension signed today with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good for Bake. Seriously, good for Baker Mayfield. It's rare that you see a guy find such early success, have it kind of fall apart, and then next thing you know, it's a second team, it's a third team, gets a home in Tampa, gets a team to the playoffs, gets rewarded. Good for Baker Mayfield. For the Browns, obviously the biggest thing you're going to look at here as far as positionally right now is the defensive tackle position. On the roster, obviously you have Dalvin Tomlinson, you have Siaki Ika. Dalvin Tomlinson, fine first year on the deal he signed with the Cleveland Browns. Siaki Ika, obviously we drafted pretty high, did not get much opportunity, started late in the season. Injuries, dinged up, finally got some action. Wasn't great. There's no way the Cleveland Browns, can have, a defined role with Siaki Ika's name on it. They're probably going to find some way to bring in 3 defensive tackles, whether it's, free agency and draft or a combination. If Ika makes great strides in year 2, that'll just be something that obviously helps this team in 2024. Now you look at the defensive tackle position, and where does it all start? The Browns are going to be players in the Christian Wilkins sweepstakes, but it could be very similar to last year with Javon Hargrave. I think there's going to be teams that are willing to commit more salary. The Browns have no problem writing a big check, but the problem is they have a number and they're set on their number. And as I said yesterday in the episode with Pete Smith, the Browns don't entertain deals that are being dictated to them. They dictate the deals. So for Christian Wilkins, it's going to be, hey, this is our deal. This is what we're willing to pay you. Obviously, you saw what this defense did last year. Envision yourself within this defense, playing for Jim Schwartz, who absolutely loves his interior defenders. And then if somebody else is just going to say, name your price, that's kind of where the Browns will probably, bow out gracefully. Would I love the addition of Christian Wilkins? Yes. Am I going to overpay for Christian Wilkins? No, I'm not going to get into a bidding war, because if it comes down to, and you figure, Matt Abikwe at his number, and you figure Wilkins, you figure the number's 25 million, Chris Jones at 32, the Browns are going to stay at that probably 23, 24, 25 number for Wilkins. And to go higher, they're going to say, no, we will go find 3 or 4 players that we can pay that $25 million to, chop it up however you need to, and get more contribution from 3 to 4 guys than we would from just Christian Wilkins. It's just the way this team goes. And it's worked. It's continued to work. Myles Garrett is the top edge player in the entire NFL. Christian Wilkins is one of the top interior defenders in the NFL. The Browns are just not going to swing like that. They are not going to be told how they're going to handle this. The other big interesting question is going to be, do the Browns view the interior more than what the position is that they have at edge. They've always valued edge, of course, but obviously they got good return on Ogbo. Now you also look, of course, at Alex Wright and the developmental path that Alex Wright has been on. Big jump in year 2, 3, 3 sacks, but 3 straight games. Alex Wright, 200 snaps less than Zadarius Smith last year. 3 sacks for Alex Wright, 6 for Zadarius Smith. I'm not saying the Browns might not sign an edge, but it might not be something that they go heavily on or expensive on. Now, obviously, when it doesn't work out with Christian Wilkins, first thing you're going to look at is you're going to look to bring back Maurice Hurst. You're going to look to bring back Shelby Harris. I think the Jordan Elliott and the Cleveland Browns days are probably over. Another interesting name that will be, to come up. And his name's been bountied about a lot and rumored around a lot, and it's not too, unfamiliar to Browns fans, a little bit down in South Ohio, Kentucky. DJ Reader. Obviously, DJ Reader coming off a pretty significant injury. This was the injury Anthony Walker had, not in 23, but in 22. DJ Reader, rumors, maybe a 1-year deal, 10 mil, might not start the season. DJ Reader is a fantastic player. You've heard me talk millions of times. You've heard Pete Smith talk millions of times about one thing that we always, just absolutely cherished that the Bengals had. DJ Reader was that type of talent, special guy on the interior. Plays well against the run, plays well as a pass rusher, fun player. Could be something that happens. Grover Stewart at Indianapolis, certainly something to keep your eyes on. We had a rumor Fletcher Cox here last year. Fletcher Cox retired. God bless you. Go on and enjoy the rest of your life. You had a fantastic NFL career. Sheldon Rankins, certainly interesting. Daquan Jones, certainly interesting. Tim Settle is the name that I wanted in here a couple of years ago. He's the guy that can play, obviously, in early down situations, 1st and 10, 2nd and 9, with the run, those types of things. Certainly a player that I like in that room. Tyler Tart was a player they were looking at possibly last year. Javon Kinlaw, certainly an interesting name as well. So there are names that the Browns should be connected to. They will be players in the Christian Wilkins sweepstakes, but they will not have it dictated to them. Now, you look at the edge position, it'll be interesting. Are they interested in a Carl Lawson or Emmanuel Ogbah? Bringing back Manny Ogbah probably wouldn't cost you a ton of money. And the thing about Manny Ogbah is could play inside, could play outside for this team. The one guy I kind of find, if the Browns want to go this route at edge, is Chase Young. And who knows with Chase Young? Is it a 1-year deal? I don't know if he did enough last year, where somebody's going to say, hey, here's 3 years, $50 million to Chase Young, kind of get him back in Ohio, get him back, hopefully comfortable. He's not going to have to play all the reps. You can try to make him look good and build his value back up, so he can go maybe walk in free agency for 2025. But Chase Young's certainly an interesting name, but there are a lot of veteran guys out there that could fit, certainly, Denico Autry, Marcus Davenport, other names. The Browns, that's going to be the group to probably watch. Running back, certainly with a big eye on that, probably DeAndre Swift, but defensive tackle and edge position certainly going to be big for the Browns. Browns have a question to make on one of their quarterbacks. A decision to make on one of their cornerbacks. And we're going to talk about that as we continue on your latest Locked On Browns. Everybody, stick around. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Continuing on here, your latest Locked On Browns. I am your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd. If you were not part of it by now, make a new plan. Stay and subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. The Cleveland Browns have a good problem to have at the cornerback position. Denzel Ward signed his extension a few years ago. Denzel Ward has been fantastic. 3 years ago, you drafted Greg Newsome. Greg Newsome had a fantastic year 3 for the Browns, becoming mostly your slot corner with time on the outside, with time missed from Denzel Ward. Martin Emerson going into year 3. Martin Emerson, everything you could hope for when you draft a player in the 3rd round. The length plays well. He's gotten better with his anticipation. He's gotten smarter. You start to see the turnovers, as Martin Emerson had 4 interceptions last year. So with Greg Newsome in year 4 of a 1st-round contract, the looming 5th-year option to be figured out after the draft, are the Cleveland Browns in the market of trading Greg Newsome or not? Now, my first question is, what could be the return? I don't necessarily want to get rid of Greg Newsome. I could be tempted by the return of what Greg Newsome could be worth to another franchise. Now, here's also the caveat to this. Greg Newsome is going to make more money on his next contract if he gets to go play on the outside. A nickels, nobody pays nickels. It's an important, integral position on defense that just doesn't seem to get a lot of love monetarily. So you figure nothing's going to change as far as how the Browns play their corners next year. If Greg Newsome was still here, it is going to be Emerson outside. It is going to be Denzel Ward outside. And most likely, it's going to be a nickel roll for Greg Newsome. Now, in the long run, is it better for Greg to go play for another franchise and get on the outside? Probably. As Greg played well here in his time with the Browns. His rookie year was underlooked, in my opinion, because I think with the injuries in year 2, everybody kind of forgot about what Greg Newsome did as a rookie, and everybody kind of fell in love with the new kid in town and Martin Emerson Jr., and rightfully so. Now, for Newsome, it's what's next. You know, and Greg's been a pretty good fixture here in the community. Actually, somebody reached out to him on social media asking about whether or not the softball game was still going to be held this year, which Greg Newsome replied, absolutely. But for me, what's the pay? What am I getting back? You've heard me talk about this, and this is still going to ring true even with the Jerry Jeudy trade. The Browns hold selections 54 and 83. Then they don't draft again until pick 135. That's a gaping hole, man. That is a big, big hole. That is 52 draft choices. The Browns would still like to get another offensive tackle on this roster. They're most likely going to have to draft a defensive lineman, either an edge player or a defensive tackle position. They're still looking to address the running back position. DeAndre Swift, signing him could certainly ease that burden. You still need to finish that tight end room. A guy like Mike Gesicki could certainly somebody that would be interesting to add to that group. So there are a lot of needs. Linebacker, certainly a need for this team. You know, you're not going to draft a 5th safety. You may look to sign one, and we'll get to that. It's a deep, deep, deep safety class. The Browns could find a 5th safety relatively cheap with a ton of experience. Heck, he could just run back Ronnie McLeod if he wanted to. I'd be totally okay with that. But so now, what can I get for Greg Newsome? Can I get a top 100 pick for Greg Newsome? Do I get 2 day 3 picks, a 4th and a 5th? I got to be honest, I don't think the Browns would say no to 2 day 3 picks. I would say no to 2 day 3 picks. Greg Newsome will play a ton of reps. He will get a lot out of Greg Newsome. I just, I understand you have Cameron Mitchell. I understand you have Halassi. And Browns do very, very well. I have at the cornerback position drafting it. They have drafted a corner every year since this regime has currently stood. There's a guy I love on day 3 out of Mississippi State again, Decameron Richardson, 6'2", runs a sub 4.3, relative athletic score of 9.77. I think would be a fantastic get for this team. He can help on the outside while you probably have Cameron Mitchell take over as a slot player. Cameron Mitchell trying to get him a role at the slot. He was a predominant special teams player at Northwestern. So it would really be obviously a tough spot for Mitchell to be in, as well as Mitchell and, of course, Greg Newsome have their history and their friendship from the days at Northwestern together. But it's going to be one that's going to have to be monitored. There could be teams that are going to have a lot of interest in Greg Newsome. And it could say, hey, I need to use my 1st round pick here. I can't afford to draft a corner in the 1st round. I can't afford to draft a corner in the second round. I can afford to give up any pick from 65 to 99, whatever it is, once you factor in compensatory picks that start in the third round, where, hey, I may be willing to part with one of these picks to get Greg Newsome. I think the Browns would love to get a third pick in the top 100. I think they would love to find a way to bridge that gap from 83 to 135. Obviously, you can trade down, but that limits, then again, the playing pool that you would be drafting from. You could trade down from 54, which is probably a good chance Browns might do anyway. You guys know how this team works by now. But if you can find a way to get, 3 inside that top 100 or bridge that gap from 83 to 135, it gives you a strong, opportunity to, turn in a solid draft class. I don't want to see Greg Newsome go. I'll be completely honest about it. I don't want to move on from Greg Newsome. I think Greg Newsome has been a vital part of this organization. I think Greg Newsome has been a very, very solid player for this organization. The looming thing is, and the fact is, they're both going to need to get paid at the same time. Even if you don't pick up Greg's, 5th-year option, then you're negotiating against the league next year. Or even if you do, then the year after, you now have Martin Emerson headed towards free agency, Greg Newsome headed towards free agency, both of them at the same time. So it's tough, and it's a difficult situation to be in for general manager Andrew Berry, where you have two players that you really like what they do, but you understand that the bell is going to toll for both these players at the same time. So eventually you were going to have to make a decision on one or the other. And so why guys make the big money that they do. So, moving on from Greg Newsome is not something I am a fan of. If you tell me I am getting a top 100 pick back, or am I getting an early 4th round pick and another day 3 pick back for Greg Newsome, does it become a little bit easier pill to swallow? Probably. And when we talk about Greg obviously had one of the most integral plays of the 2023 season when he yanked that ball out of the air from Lamar Jackson to obviously change the outcome of a game between the Ravens and the Browns, a game that turned out to be so crucial and vital for the Browns, changed the momentum, proved that they can play with the Baltimore Ravens. So it's a slippery slope. It really is. Gene New has been a really, really great person within the Cleveland community, has been a very, very solid player for this team. But once you are a team that starts to get better, you end up with very difficult decisions to make. And that is what the Cleveland Browns are faced with right now. They have very difficult decisions to make. And Greg Newsome is going to be one of those decisions. We'll see how Andrew Berry plays it. We'll see what the Browns can possibly get. It's certainly going to be a big thing to follow in the next couple of weeks. It could be even something that waits to get resolved until the 2024 NFL draft. We're going to continue to roll on. Your latest Locked On Browns, segment 3 coming. Nobody go anywhere. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. I appreciate you all who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, you are a bunch of filthy animals, but you're my filthy animals, and I love you to death. And let's get more of you to this party. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Also appreciate everybody for all the feedback yesterday on the Jerry Jeudy episode. If you haven't gotten to it yet, I highly suggest you do. It was something I was trying to will into fruition, and I certainly did. Now, you look at the linebacker room and two vital players who have been Browns for a long time now, Anthony Walker, Sione Takitaki, currently set to be free agents. Anthony Walker, it's been a lot of positives as Anthony Walker has been a part of this team, been a part of this franchise, but it's also been a lot of missed time, a lot of injuries. And, it's tough for a player like that. And, we've heard several players from this team talk about Anthony Walker and the type of guy he is. Anthony Walker is going to be a good football coach one day. Question is, how close is Anthony Walker to making that transition from good player to being good coach? I don't think he's going to get a lot of money this year. The question is, do the Browns want to enter that market at all? You are, going to be in the midst of probably giving a nice extension to Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Deservedly so. JOK has earned everything he's got coming his way. Sioni's a little younger. Sioni can play outside. Sioni has found a way to, be a guy that can contribute as a Mike. That's been impressive. They really, really need to figure this out. Sioni, I don't know what it's going to cost. Is it going to be a ton? I'm not positive, but it's going to be a decent amount. If you told me 2 years, $6 million, that's certainly something I could see being conceivable to do to get Sione Takitaki back here with the Cleveland Browns. Are there other linebackers that the Browns could have interest in? Sure. Question is going to be the market, though. This is a position the Browns have not been a team that has thrown a lot of money at over the years, the linebacker market. Could it be a Jordan Brooks? Is that somebody you could have interest in? To look at a player like Isaiah Simmons and say, hey, dirt cheap, ton of athleticism. Do we want to get into this market and see if we can finally get out of him what nobody else has? Remember, Andrew Berry has an affinity, a love, a desire to chase down former first-round picks. Could be something to look after. But the decision is going to have to be made. Or is this something where you're just going to draft one? I do know the Browns love Mahmoud Diabate. They were really, really impressed with what they did as a rookie. This is a player you got last year as an undrafted free agent. There's going to be certainly an opportunity for him to grow his playing time. Tony Fields has never been a star. He's been a contributor, and the Browns appreciate that. The guy scored 2 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. He plays well on special teams. Every time his number gets called, it is something that the Browns seem to get the best out of Tony Fields. Now, again, the safety position. Now, this safety class is ridiculous. It's ridiculous the amount of safeties that are going to be available in this free agent class. Let me just clarify that. First one, obviously, already been taken care of. Kelvin Byard is headed off to, obviously, the Chicago Bears. So that's already out there. Jamal Adams is a name. It's not the type of safety the Browns are looking for. Justin Simmons is not going to come here. Eddie Jackson's not going to come here. Micah Hyde. Look, there's going to be a ton of safeties. And unfortunately, in this game of musical chairs, somebody's not going to get paid. It's just the way it works. And it's probably why Byard signed his deal when he did. Understanding that, you're not just, asking a team for extra money. You're asking a team for extra money when there's 12 of these all capable starters to go anywhere within the NFL. And it becomes difficult to get the number you want. If I'm the Browns, call Rodney McLeod. It wasn't his leg. It wasn't his knees. It wasn't his ankles. It was his chest. Rodney McLeod. And now Rodney McLeod, obviously we all know, and we got to see a little bit, when he signed with the Browns last year, has aspirations for what he's going to do after his playing days. He's going to go into the analyst business, and he's probably going to do an extremely good job. Now, do you say, hey, Rodney, one more year in the sun while we continue to develop? Of course, the 2 safeties, obviously as you're trying to, continue with Ronnie Hickman, continuing, with Bell, who played a lot better than I think any of us thought he was going to in an actual safety role. D'Anthony's certainly always been a strong special team performer, got the opportunity to physically play the game last year for the Browns. And you saw that D'Anthony Bell's got some game. What you saw from Ronnie Hickman as an undrafted free agent was pretty solid. Take away the playoff game, of course. But, the Browns do want to play 3 safeties. They love the 3 safety look. So you're probably going to look to get one more of those guys in here. For me, it could be McLeod, could be some other guys. There are some really good names out there. Something the Browns absolutely are certainly going to, pursue. The cornerback room, obviously you guys know where I think that's going to stand. I think, there's a good chance they may move on from Genu and they're going to draft another one. You got to work out this defensive line room, start with the defensive tackles. If Shelby and Mohurst want to come back, ping, bang, bong, let's get that done tomorrow at 12:02. I'm more than okay with that. The edge position, how are they going to address it? Certainly the linebacker position, corner. There's not a lot of work to be done. And this is the other thing when we see this. Look, the Browns may sign 2 players. I'm not saying 2 only, 2 ticket items. It's usually the way it works for the Browns. So when a lot of guys go flying off the board, I don't want to hear the ooh and the and barely. Browns are probably going to sign 2 legitimate free agents that cost money. My guess is one's going to be defensive tackle. Other one, edge, maybe, probably. Maybe throw some money at a tight end. But ideally, it would probably be, in my opinion, the running back, which I think could be DeAndre Swift, and then probably that defensive tackle, which, maybe it's Christian Wilkins. Maybe you scale it back a little bit, and it's a guy like DJ Reader. Again, all the love. Appreciate you guys for the Jerry Jeudy, the pouring out from that episode. It's fun when you get to do this. It's fun when, you try to pinpoint something that you think is going to help a franchise, and it comes to fruition. The only problem is now myself and Jerry Jeudy got to back it up. But I appreciate you all, of course. I appreciate every single one of you that make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd keeps growing and growing. Don't miss out. Get on board. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.